guarantee that the messages that got, it's like if I, it's kind of like this. If I let me stop sharing and go back to the actual browser here. I'm trying to find my actual the actual thing here, but think about it like this. Let's say you are a Signal. Let's say I'm a SignalR client, and I'm in the process of like, you can't hear me. See what happened? See what happened?
Why did you go away?
There's another caveat here too. Those connections to auto reconnect also mean that the application, the clients could all be different. This could be, let's take web for example, though. That means that the application is still open on the client. So if the person closes the wrong tab, or if the browser crashes, or the application goes away for some reason, that auto reconnect is done, because the connection or the client, it's a connection ID. Yeah, the connection ID is going to be refreshed because they're going to reload the client application and reestablish a brand new hub connection.
Is this like
and
what we
that
learned
auto
about?
retry, the auto reconnect gone? Like,
Is this what we
it's
learned
not a
about
reconnect.
with like video streaming and how they send like packets, and if all of a sudden there's like a glitch, like those packets are just gone because it would take too much resources to ensure that every packet was delivered? Is this like that?
Yes.
Okay.
Not like that. It is that.
Oh.
Like that thing that I was talking about before. I don't remember the number off the top of my head. So folks in the chat room, like if I say the wrong number and the devs start yelling at me, like, whatever, I apologize. But I think I remember hearing in one of our impromptu meetings about like, should we bring back resends? I said, well, how much memory were we using? And they said, sometimes it would get to like 4 gigabytes per client. So,
and you were like, we should not bring back resend.
I was like, Fowler, listen, like, over my dead body, we bring this back. But we've talked about ways to do it. We've talked about building stuff out. People have asked us for years, like, well, how would I do that? How would I do hacking? And we're like, well, if I tell you, I'm going to tell you about how I did hacking in an application that does this. And they'll say, my application isn't like that. It's like, well, then you should probably write your own hacking algorithm. Like we can't do all of that. SignalR is a signaler. That's all it is. It's not where you put your business logic. It's not where you put blah 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 blah. It's your network layer. You know what I mean? It's your catcher's mitt. It's your request response. That's really all it is. Or not your request response. It's your request.
So let's pull our game up again for a minute, because I think we're on a pretty good topic. Because you said, SignalR is exactly that, and it's not meant to keep all of this other metadata around. So I think one of the other things we were talking about yesterday that I think Alyssa was trying to grasp was the fact that I have game state and a player state, and we're putting them in these POCO objects to hold that state, because SignalR itself doesn't really care about the state of our application. It's up to us to develop what we consider the state and handle the users, the players, and all of that stuff.
Correct.
So this is where we left off yesterday. And we're getting to the point where we need to start working on it some more. We're never going to finish. So you are more than welcome to stay around till you're hard out here.
Okay.
I know you have a hard out in an hour. It doesn't mean you need to stay an hour. If you feel like you need to go earlier, you're more than welcome. But if you want to stick around and help us with a little bit of this, you're also welcome to stay and do that.
I think I'll stick around, because I think like at least 2 generals from the real-time army are in the chat window, and this never happens for us all to be together in the SignalR conversation.
Oh, nice.
I'm just gonna have to stay here for a little while. With David and Griff here, so that's kind of good.
So one thing that I think is a benefit of live streaming is when you go in completely unplanned. So people can see the process of solving the problems and prototyping and all of those things. If we came in with a solid plan and just executed code, I think the stream would be extremely boring. Maybe that's a personal thing, but in my opinion, it would just be dull to watch somebody implement an already decided architecture. So we're just kind of prototyping this out, riffing this out as we go. So we started building this game state yesterday. Some of the stuff has no proper use yet. So we left off, we had changed our players to an actual class instead of just a string that keeps the player's name around. And then we have a player, which is defined by a GUID. So we're not doing any type of specific identity implementation here. At least we haven't decided on one yet. Brady, have you played any of the Jackbox games? Yes. Okay.
Actually, twice. Once with the team, once with the kids.
Okay, so you get the concept of how that handles.
So Brady was talking
users.
about being able to send, like to user Brady, and that can send to multiple clients. And I really like that idea, but is that like bizarrely complex to implement? Because it'd be cool for Crazy Eights to be able to do that, but
yeah, where would we begin with that if we didn't want to adopt something heavy like identity, but we just wanted to kind of do it Jackbox style and give people a place to join?
So essentially what you're talking about is like the whole code, like you have a string and that string is like the thing, like the game code or what have you.
Yeah.
I mean, what I would do is I would have like, that's going to be your group name probably. Like you'd probably have like, 459234. That's your game game ID. So that would be where you want to send messages to anybody that's in that game. That would be your group. You know what I mean? So I would definitely think of that first. That's also a pretty great concept when you're talking about the Azure SignalR service, because you can use Azure functions to actually send messages and bounce them off the service. And you can use groups for that as well. And groups in the Azure SignalR service are pretty robust. Like that's a whole different show. But I would probably do that with groups. Like, and in terms of like, I mean, you'd want to start a game, do something like, I'm going to show my age here, system.io.path.get random file name without the extension. You know what I mean? And get like some random string, then bounce that string out with an event, like clients that'd be interesting, because what you'd have to do is the client would have to say, I want to join a game or I want to start a game. So you'd start the game, it would generate the string, then it would send that string back to the client. You'd show it to the client, you'd render it. So the client could copy that string and then send it to their friends they want to get into the game. Those folks would go to the screen, they would have a text box, they would drop in the string, say join game, and at that point you would have something like on your hub method, you would have a method join game, and it would take a string, and that string would be the code. And then you would basically do clients.add to group. You would add that particular client to the group, and now they're in the game.
I think that's pretty much the path we've been down so far. So I think we're heading in the right direction. It's good to have validation. You see on my screen, I highlighted the starting point here is we have a player that joins the game and they are put into a group called table. In the larger scheme of things, if we went to like, this is starting with one game. If we had multiple games, that table would then be a unique identifier.
I just wanted to say hi, Raiders. Welcome.
Oh, Layla's here.
Layla Codes it rated us, so welcome, Raiders, to the stream.
Thanks for the raid, Layla. And Layla's a huge fan of SignalR. We had a quick chat yesterday after the show, so we'll have to do something sometime with Layla and do some SignalR stuff again. Cool. So the table would actually be a unique identifier when we expand this out to accept multiple games. But at this point, we're trying to keep it, simple and then work our way up. So we've got that. So my question is,
I had an idea. What if, how he was talking about like an ID for the game, that's like that people join. What if we attached that to the user ID? Ooh. And that way we would know what game they're in if they got disconnected, although I don't know where they're keeping that ID.
Well, you want that to be explicit. Like you want to be able to identify a user or a game.
Oh,
And I'm definitely showing my OCD here, but I would keep them separate.
okay.
So, in that explanation you gave a minute ago, Brady, do you see .user being useful, or just keep everything groups?
I mean, do you? I would default your initial requirements implementation to be specific to people being able to play the game together. I would put on the back burner anything involving like direct messages to users, just so you get that part working. You know what I mean? It's like if you can both get in a room and you can both see the moves and all that, at that point I would start to investigate the idea of doing individual user things. Don't complicate your life.
Okay, cool. So I think we're on the right track.
Yeah.
So we were working on, so we can, you could see we have the ability to join a game.
I think we
Multiple
should
players can join.
Once the game starts, we should display a code and then isn't that the next step in the funnel of creating this game?
I think we would have a code would be great for multiple games, but at this point we don't even have like one game working.
Okay.
I think if we get one game working, we can then add the code part and expand it to accept multiple games. But we don't even have, we have players joining a single game, but we've got a lot of unfinished business, I guess. So one of those things is, obviously I can create duplicate names and users. That might be something we want to kind of narrow down. And then also when I join, I have nothing. It's just an empty UI so far. So we don't send back the user anything other than, okay, you're in a game, but we haven't dealt any cards. We don't have any kind of game state or anything. So that was what we were working on, was the game state. So if we look at the game state again, we have the game state has the players. It has a flag that nothing is setting yet, that it has started, and also has a deck of cards, which I just noticed is a problem because this needs to be a shuffled deck of cards, or it's going to be a really boring game. So we'll new up a game state. We'll add players to it, and then the players need to get a UI that lets them start the game, and then we need to deal cards to those players.
The next step is kind of the lobby idea. Like once you hide that UI, we also need to show a list of players and a button of everyone's here or something, maybe.
Yeah. There was, let me see, there was another question I had in here. I'm trying to remember what it was. So we have our game state, we get our players, we can start it. We can have a deck. Oh, the other question, Brady, was we have this game state, but I'm wondering if it is something we should have also a client game state in a separate server game state, and just pass messages with bits to build those states independently? Or do you see an opportunity to share like just one giant state and just pass the state across?
Like one giant state for your whole game?
Yeah.
Usually,
or do you think we should have a client and a server state?
Usually you don't want to make your payload and your SignalR messages very large. That's kind of a general rule. I would send as little as possible.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
I can agree with that.
Yeah. So if you're transmitting your state and then like saturating each time, like A, you've got serialization time, B, you've got payload, blah 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 blah. So I would definitely send as little as possible data and maintain the state on the server side. You could use memcache for that. You could use a million different things.
So I'm gonna add to the client right now a services folder, and just add a another Poco object in here. Where is my UI for this?
You keep saying Poco.
Oh, I meant to do a folder. I see what I'm doing wrong. Plain old class object. So it's kind of like a JSON object. So when you say Poco, it's the same thing as like a JSON object in the .NET world. So I meant to do new folder. So I'm still learning Visual Studio Code. So I'm going to add a services folder and then add a client game state, just so we don't confuse it with the server one. And then this will have our client state in it. So let's see, namespace. I don't like having to type out the namespace. I'm not used to this Visual Studio Code stuff. So the namespace would be blazor8.client.services.
For folks in the chat, so you see what he's doing here, how he had to right click VS Code and he had to say new file, and then he has to type namespace foo and all that. So there is a VS Code extension where I can right click like the root of my workspace, or I can right click a folder, and it adds a flyout menu that literally says like new C# class, new C# interface. And when you do it, it just figures out what the namespace is and puts it in there. I have installed every VS Code extension that has .NET in the name, and I can't find that extension. So if anybody in the chat knows that extension, please share it with us.
We definitely need something like that, because
it exists. So
well, I do know how to do this stuff. I'm so used to Visual Studio holding my hand that I have forgotten a lot of it from scratch, though. And so, Brady, if you watched the show earlier this week, you probably know I'm having a little beef with Visual Studio over the last few weeks.
Okay.
And it is a crashing rage machine that I cannot stand to open anymore. So I will get into a project and it just crashes nonstop. So I'm having problems.
Okay, we should get on a call and figure that out.
Yeah. So that's a problem. I have some other small beefs to pick with it, but the biggest one is just the stability issues right now. It's just unbearable.
I have the main branch installed. I have Real VS installed, and I have Preview VS installed, all side by side. And I probably don't use it as much as you. You can see I'm on a Mac, so I have to RDP into it and stuff. But I haven't had any issues at all. So I'd be curious, like, what you're doing, if you're finding anything that's like, if there's a symptom that you're doing that's causing it to blow up. We should just
probably because he's on a PC.
I have a suspicion that it is something to do with the new Razor compiler, or the Razor View, the thing that makes Razor syntax highlighting and all that inside of Visual Studio. That's just a guess, though. I don't have any evidence of that. It's just that was the major change in the last release. So I'm just going to pick on that.
Okay. That's interesting. I'll have to get Taylor. We should talk to Taylor about that. Chris Pauly got the one in. I need to try this one out, see if that's the right one. If it is, I'm going to be so
so we're gonna have some things that look like they may have the ability to be shared from the client server, but they do have different purposes. So the client state may have some overlap of the server state, but for all intents and purposes, they are different things. So we're gonna go ahead and create that. The client game state has an ID, so we can, and this is something I've mentioned with Alyssa before on this show, is in my personal opinion, the server should dictate pretty much everything. I never want to trust the client for jack squat, because the client can be manipulated to do things that I haven't told it it's allowed to do. So if somebody gets, they compile their own version of a client, they start sending messages up, they could do bad things. So we're going to generate the user's ID on the server and hand it off to the client, rather than let the client do any kind of generation. We're also going to generate all the cards and the hands on the server, send those down to the clients as well.
I downloaded that extension, the creative one, the creative-software. And now when I right click, I have like a new C# class, new C# enum, new C# interface. I'm assuming that's what you were talking about.
That's it.
Hey, you should.
That sounds nice.
You should look it up. Creative with
send me a link on the back channel for that, please.
Okay. Let me go and find a link.
And I dropped the link to the new repo in the chat window if y'all want to pull that up and show folks that just joined the chat what we're talking about when we say .NET cards.
There is one in private chat, and
so I think at the very least, we are going to want a hand of cards.
Yes.
On the client.
And if you want to make sure you don't have any null refs, you can actually, at the end of line 8, you can say equals new list card.
And with C#9, I can just say
oh
new.
Yeah, you can do that too. Genius.
So that is, yeah. Yeah, I always try to remember to set those. Thanks for reminding me, because that's like a pet peeve of mine, is going to the list and like doing an any to see if it's got anything in it, and it's like exception. You can't use any on something that's null, and it's like, really? So we'll open up a new list. So we'll have the client game state.
David wants to know if you need a set there.
Did I miss a set?
No, do you need
Do I need a set for the ID? I don't know which line he's talking about, but yes, because unlike the server, the client is going to receive an ID from the server.
Okay.
The hand. Oh, I see what he's saying. No, I think leaving the hand as a set would be okay. What he's trying to prevent is assigning a brand new hand. So if I remove the set, the hand is already newed up, and I couldn't therefore say hand equals. Oh, come on. I'm trying to just pseudocode here. Hand equals some new hand. I couldn't do that because the setter's been removed, but there may be an instance where I actually just want to shove a whole hand in there without having to do add card.
Mm-hmm.
If I'm reconnecting, we haven't got to this point yet, but if I'm reconnecting from a disconnected client that maybe accidentally closed their tab, the server might want to push their state back down to them. That may make it difficult. I could probably just new up the state with that hand. I don't know, but I think I'll leave it for now. I don't see it causing an issue yet. So we could always refactor things out after the fact.
Yeah, don't
do it on init. Yeah,
don't refactor inline. Don't.
So we'll leave that.
Paralysis. It's crazy.
Yes. So I think we'll need an ID in a hand, and then we'll see how this plays out. No pun intended. See what I did there?
You're such a card.
Oh, that was a good one. I like that one. You're such a joker. Such a joker.
Gosh. What a deal.
We're gonna break Alyssa, I think. My wife wants to leave the room every time this starts up, and we're in lockdown, and she's got nowhere to go.
Can't run from the fun.
So we've built a lot of unused code, so I'm getting very antsy to put things back together, and I can't stand clutter. I'm gonna do some tab bankruptcy real quick. So let's close all of the things. So we want to go
a little bit OCD. I'm telling you, man.
Client. We have a page, and we were on the game, which is the client that's connected. They've joined a game, but they don't know anything because they have a blank screen. So we need to do something when they've joined.
Give them a lobby, critter.
Yeah, like you would probably want to do something in your hub, on, I don't want to say on user joined, or user joined. That's it. User joined would be like what you'd send to the clients, and your client method would be on user joined if we're staying with the OCD theme. But the idea there would be, you know, whenever somebody actually pops into the game, would you want to bounce out the name of the user too? Like, you know, Ed Charbeneau joined, you know, or Alyssa joined. Would you want to go that far? Because then you'd want to capture their
I
username
think
too.
so,
I
because
think,
it's
hang
not
on,
that
hang
you
on.
need to know if you have all your players, right?
Yeah,
I
yeah,
think we have that through our main board though.
got it.
So it may be a bit redundant because the idea, like, again, for those that haven't played Jackbox games, I'm sorry if I'm using this analogy again, but that's kind of the concept. So we have that display here. So I don't know if we need a redundant display on the handset
Okay.
as well.
No, I don't think. Yeah, you're right.
But we do need like a button to start the game. We don't have that yet. And then Alyssa and I were talking about this, like, how do we dictate who gets to start the game? Do all players have the start button?
Well, are all the players going to be in, like, can Alyssa and me in one game and Ed and I be in another game? Or is it like you're only in one game at a time? That would really make your lives easier. Is everybody that's on it in the same game? Or is it like, are you do want to have multiple games, right?
I think eventually we're going to have multiple games,
But
but
for now, no. Okay.
for now, we've got this one initial game. So do we let player one handle the starting of the game, or does everybody just kind of ad hoc start the game?
I think anybody can start the game, but I think once the game is started, you need to, you know, have a tick,
Alert
like,
everyone.
well, you need to alert everyone, but then you also need to hold the start game button for everybody else. So
So we
essentially, what I'm thinking you want to do is you want to have some sort of a property on the server side that's basically, are we in a game now? You know, like, is game current or something. And if there's no current game, you want to like, once the game ends, you want to fire an event to the clients that basically says enable game startage, and all the buttons, you know, become enabled. They click a button, you start a game, then you fire an event that says like game started, all the buttons get disabled. But what's important is you're gonna, if you want people to join after a game is started, you're going to have, like, when they hit the client, one of the pieces of info you're going to have to pass down is, is there an active game? So that,
Yeah.
like, when the page renders, the button's disabled until such time as the game ends and restarts.
So let's take a baby step here and at least just give them the ability to start the game. So we got on click, on abort, on click, on IntelliSense. And then we need a method that's going to start the game.
Right.
So we should probably just call that start game.
It's fine.
Then we need a method to handle this start game, and it's going to be a task because it has to await the connection here. Start game, and we'll just go right into an arrow and say hub connection, send async. And this is where, again, we don't have that strongly typed ability. That would be something nice to add for Blazor, is since we're, I think, no, there's going to be more than just Blazor as a C# client. So any of these C# clients, I would love to have some kind of way to do this without magic strings.
It would be really, really great. It's something that we've talked about a lot. In SignalR OG, we had this concept of a SignalR, what was it, a hub or a proxy? It was like when you would render all the JavaScript on, like, it's been so long, I can't even remember. I blocked it out. But we did something like that early on for like JavaScript stuff, but it was like jQuery and whatever, too heavy. Hub proxies, that's it. I do think that would be great. There's a lot of .NET developers who really like that type specificity. That would be good. You can create something like, you know how you've got your hub of T? You can do something like that. It's not as, it's a little weird, but I'd love to talk to you more about that and see if you have any like more concrete feedback on what we could do there. But when you start talking about the typing on the client and the server, now you've got to have the shared projects, you know what I mean, that share the typing. So
yeah, that's what I did with the interface. I just shared the interface, so I'm doing name of in some spots.
Cool.
I know there's a UI for that. There it goes. So there we go. We're side by side now. So I've got the game in the game hub. I click on join game start game. I click on start game. It tells the server we're starting the game. So now the hub needs a method, and that brings me back to the interface because we have to define the interface first.
Yep.
So we have a task of start game. And we want, do we need to pass anything to it? I don't think we need any information.
I don't think you need to start it. I don't think you need to pass anything to it. Do you want it to return a bool to tell you that it started, or do you care? I mean,
yes.
I guess you probably don't, because what you'd want to do is handle events. So you just want to start the game, and then if it fires, okay, sorry.
We want a message back from the server to tell us that it's started. Then that will be, that message will be shared with all users that the game has started, so it can disable that start button again. Got it.
You see what I just did there? I literally just went back into request response thinking.
Yeah. So at some point, like not right now, but at some point, what we'd probably want to do is pass the game ID, so we know which game we're starting. But we haven't got that far yet. We have one singular game right now, so we don't need that yet. So we're gonna just pass nothing, and then it will tell the users of this game, because we'd have a group essentially that would align with this at some point. Mm-hmm. So we need to implement that now. So async task start game.
Can I ask you a silly question?
Sure.
Why did you start with the hub of T option of 3? Like, because there's 3 hubs. There's just hub, it's a dynamic. Sorry. There's hub of T, and then there's I think there's dynamic hub. I can't remember what the third one is, but you don't have to have that strongly typed hub of a thing. I applaud it. I think it's cool. It's definitely a very .NET way to do things. But mm-hmm. I was just curious, like, why would you pick that path? Is it
so we'd have the magic strings eliminated. Cool. So we're not calling, so we can say like this caller join game, group player joined, and not send async magic string, because I did break the app earlier and typed the wrong string.
Oh yeah.
So so we were clicking on stuff and nothing was happening. So that's why we chose the typed option.
That makes sense. I've seen David and Jeff use hub of T a lot. I always default to what I grew up doing, hub. So, but I do like hub of T.
You also like dynamic.
Yeah, but I like that. So.
Shh, I'm trying not to let Alyssa know about this dynamic thing.
I will learn one way or the other.
Let's keep the things away from Alyssa that can allow her to shoot herself in the foot.
If she learns about dynamic, she'll have to learn about expando object too. So that'll be fun.
Interesting. I'm making a list.
Expando object.
So we got clients all, and then we want to. Oh, did I do this? I did this backwards, I think. Did I? The interface part is. Yeah, this should be like game started.
That should be game started. That's your client. Yeah.
This is what I'm calling on the client. My bad. That's
okay.
where I kind of
start
game is
that's
what's
a very
being
common
called
thing
here.
When people use hub of T, they get that flip flopped. They're like, oh, the I is the interface for my client. You know what I mean? Think about it like that.
So we'll call game started on the client, and we don't really need to pass anything yet. So now back on the client, we need to receive. So we've got like this handshake going on. We're like saying on the game side, start the game. On the hub side, we're saying, okay, we're going to start the game. The game started. Oh, we need to update our state too. State has the game started. Equals true. That's probably the most important part of this, really, actually, Brady.
Yeah.
Is not forgetting to actually like do the thing that we told the server to do.
Yeah.
Otherwise, we're just passing useless messages back and forth all day.
Exactly. Is that is scroll? Let me see your underscore state. Okay, so that's just like you're saying. Okay, that's cool. Okay.
Yeah, it's coming through dependency injection.
Okay. That's cool.
So we've got game started. We're going to send that back. Now we don't have anything on this side to accept that message back. We don't have a procedure to run here. So let's just we'll just create another hub connection on.
Also, I want you gentlemen to know that I have a promise from Layla that she will teach me all about this dynamic. So there. Oh,
you know how in JavaScript you go new and then open, close, and then you put properties in it?
Yeah.
That's dynamic.
Oh, so you like JavaScript too?
I just said that.
Oh, okay.
So when we receive game started back, we need to actually run something. So we'll call game started, which doesn't exist yet. And then we need some sort of thing here. What are we going to do when the game has started? We haven't even really built anything for that. We want to create another flag, I guess. We have a state, actually. We have state now, which I don't believe we... I'm trying to think if we need to use... I don't think we need to use dependency injection for this. I think we just need a new one up. So player... Is it player game state or client? Client game state. And there's missing a using statement here. Maybe it shouldn't have been a service. I think since we're not using dependency injection for it, because each individual page needs their own instance, there's no reason to like share this globally through the whole app. I don't think we need to inject it. We need to just new one up. I'm just going to drop it right in line with pages here. Some people might cringe at that. It's more of a slice architecture approach. So I'm just going to take that namespace down and we'll leave it right in pages with game. Client game state. The places it's being used are local to this folder. So it's going to be in game and in table. And they're going to be unique instances for those pages. So I don't think we need to inject it. And we could just put it there. So I should have access to it now. Client game state is state equals new. And in our game started, we will say state dot. We don't have that in there. We need to add that. Let's see here. Where did I put it? There it is. We need to start it. Oops. Bool has game started. All right.
Yeah.
So now we can go in and say state has started equals true. So it does look like it does on the surface look like duplication. I know it does because we have state has game started is true here. Then we're calling a method down here and we're doing the exact same thing. But again, as we discussed a few minutes ago, we don't want to like pass like the entire game state from the server to the client and expect it to like rehydrate all that stuff. We just want to send the minimal information. and let it mirror the things that it does need to mirror. It doesn't really need the entire game state of all the players and everything that's involved on the server. Does that sound good?
That does sound good.
Okay. All right. So we're gonna say the game has started. We need to update this. We'd have to say if they have joined or the game has started.
Yeah.
Then go ahead and or no, has not started.
Right.
If it has not started, if they haven't joined.
So you want to know?
Or no, if they have joined, but the game hasn't been started,
Should this
show
be
the
moved
start
out
button.
of our template? No. Yes.
Our template.
I just feel like this is where our template is, and you're like putting all this logic in our template. Shouldn't this be like a variable somewhere that's like?
I think I know what you mean. So let's take a little sidebar here. We've got to Alyssa's point, we're getting like a lot of markup going.
Okay.
And we've got a lot of code in with our markup, and our chocolate and our peanut butter are mixed together here.
That's a horrible way to put it, because people love those two things together.
Okay, our pineapples have joined our pizza. And I love those two things together.
Okay.
But not everybody does. So we can actually split this out. So again, into pages, I'm going to do a new file, and we'll call this game.razor, just like the name of the component, but this is going to be a CS file. So we'll say game.razor.cs, and then we need to call this a public partial class of game. And that will link up the component markup with the component code. So now we're in two different files here. We could take all of the code. Is this what you meant, Alyssa? We can strip this out.
Well, I mean, you're going one step further. I was just primarily concerned about our if statement and how long it was getting with all of this logic. And I feel like we should, once you get that complicated with like your ands and your ors and what is and what's not, that you should at least make a variable so that we can understand what state that is, and then just put that variable in there, because I can't follow the logic.
That is also a very excellent point.
Oh, yeah.
So let's
I love what you're doing
real quick.
Yeah.
Let's move this off. So we need to take, these are also declaring variables and things. So through dependency injection, we'll go ahead and move those over here as well. So the using statements, we stripped the @ symbol off.
Oh, really?
That is not.
That's not markup. That's code.
Yeah, it is code. It is not markup. The @inject goes away as well. And this changes slightly. So we're going to put a brace around this.
This is getting spicy.
So this is actually capital here. So @inject. So this is saying dependency injection, give me a thing called navigation manager. And when I write it this way, it's a property. So the @ symbol goes away.
Okay, me and Brady both were just like, oh,
that's cool. I've never done that. That's
whoops. There are using statements that need to be added to make the angry squiggles go away. @implements goes up here, and this is going to be an async disposable. If you see me pausing on things, it's because I have my Visual Studio foo is not kicking in when I expect it to. And I think there's a namespace here.
Yeah. I'm like, what file type is this? Because it's so confusing. So we were in Razor.
Yes. And I just moved all the code to C#.
This is sort of like, Alyssa, this would be like if you have an HTML page with a script tag and 3,000 lines of JavaScript versus you have a JS file.
So who is the C#?
The C# would be like the JavaScript code and your JS file that you put at you import using a source tag versus.
Okay.
Blah, like
I
it,
gotcha.
yeah.
I thought for a second he was trying to tell me this was the markup, and I was like really lost. But okay, I'm with you. This is like the logic. Razors are template. Okay.
Yeah, this is the C# part of your Razor page.
Okay.
In the old days, aka 2019, or 2020 even, you had to have it all in the Razor page. But thank goodness Dan and the team like did the code behind dance, because now you can
Just put it
separate your
out.
logic in your presentation.
Nice.
Trying to remember why I'm getting this final angry squiggle. So it can't find on-initialized async for some reason. And I'm trying to remember what I'm missing to make that happen, because Visual Studio usually helps me with this. It is a partial class. So the partial should be getting the rest of its information from here.
It should be.
And it doesn't seem, maybe I need to build. Maybe Visual Studio builds
David
behind
said
the scenes.
build it. Build
it. Ooh, it's still running. That's not.
Why aren't you using Watch? Do .NET Watch run?
Oh, simple, Brady. Why aren't you using Watch?
So there is a missing semi somewhere.
26.
Where did that guy go?
I think
Missing semicolon.
To put it simply, Ed's had issues with like literally everything you could have issues with. So.
Okay.
It says I'm missing a semicolon somewhere.
Where is the semicolon missing?
I am not seeing it. So, oops. Compiler says, what line is this? Expected.
Nick wants you to scroll up, and so do I. Before the await, Nick said.
Oh, before the await. Okay. So. There we go. How did that? I never touched that.
Wow.
All right. So let's.
I envy your OCD, Nick.
Yes, me too.
Stop trying to make Watch happen, Gretchen.
Okay, there's another one somewhere apparently. Game on init. Nope,
I
not
really
suitable.
Like a side joke here, and I hate it when that
So
happens.
there is.
Kevin Griffin said, "Stop trying to make Watch happen," and then I just said it, because it's like a.
I know, but before that, you said that we were having Watch issues. Was that
during
this call or some other call?
I'm going to jump to another.
So Ed,
project
I don't know why. I personally try to stay away from PC life, but Ed was having these weird issues where he would close everything out and something would still be running on that port, or sometimes he would make changes and the watch wouldn't actually detect it, so we would still have to refresh, or all of a sudden he was like not on that port anymore and it wasn't running, and so he was like, what am I doing wrong? And so I think he just was trying to avoid watch, but maybe not.
That's fair.
Trying to find another example where I've done this a million times, but like I said, Visual Studio helps me a little bit more. So I have lost. There's like one more using statement or something that's missing here. Here, let's do this. Boop.
That's weird.
Let's see. Let's see if we can get through this without crashing. We'll switch to the dark side. We will pull this up in Visual Studio.
Oh, is that what's happening? I was like, I don't know what I'm looking at.
And we will see if Visual Studio stays stable long enough to tell me what the problem is.
I'm so excited.
So game.razor is not throwing any errors. And neither is this.
This is good.
There it goes. There it goes. Okay, so it did give me this. Let's try control period here. No, I don't want a base class.
Control dot your way to victory. That is bizarro.
It's public partial class. That should join the Razor in pages, game. See, they're nested.
Pine says clean your solution. You probably have some generated.
Let's do that. Clean.
Yeah, because that's a term.
Clean and rebuild.
What does clean mean?
And oh man, that just really blew up. Client DLL cannot be found. On game initialized, no override found. They're not linking up for some reason.
Weird.
Nick, why would there be weird artifact stuff to clean up? Riddle me that.
Let's try this the more direct way. This is turning into a bad demo, and it's something I've done so many times. I know this is just common practice and it works, so that's why it's going to drive me nuts.
I'm being damned off right now to figure out what's going on. Essentially, your on-initialized async is squiggling.
It says it's not a valid override, which means the partial class isn't finding.
Are you sure that's the right way to do it? That I
yes, I think I might have just figured it out. So maybe it's a using statement. Using.
You're inheriting from async it's disposable. Don't you want to inherit from something like component?
No, because the markup side is already inheriting from component. I think it's not even finding it at all. It's going to be Blazor 8.client.pages maybe. Did that help? Or maybe it's the fact that I don't have any namespace here. Client.
That's probably it, because you've got a game. It's different. Yeah, that's probably what it is.
Pages. This is the part I think Visual Studio does for me, because when I would have created this class, it would have already had the namespace in it.
I bet that's
and that would have fixed the problem for me. And there it goes. That was it.
Okay,
stupid namespace.
Never mind.
Let's see. And I totally killed my Explorer window. Solution, Explorer. I trashed it. All right, there we go. So we've linked the two things together. So we have game.razor and the code behind for game.razor. So let's split that out and hide this guy again. And now our markup is all in one place. And you were saying, Alyssa, that this is too much to reason about, which I can agree with. So what we can do here is, what is the two flags telling us? So
have joined. But the game hasn't started yet. So in lobby.
So yeah. So I'm joined, but I'm not in a game, or I'm joined and there's no game.
Okay, so
maybe. Or in lobby, or waiting on game, or in the ether.
It probably could be. It is chilling.
It's chilling.
So we'll take this, and actually, we don't even need a field for it. We'll just make it a read-only property.
Yeah.
Boom. There we go. Shortcut. So back here, we can just say and start game. And there, you made me break my is-has. Can is another good word that I like to throw into Boolean values. Can we start the game? If we cannot start the game, then it won't show. So it gives us some pretty good intent. And then let's run the project. And this is where I've been running into issues. I start running the project. It's already got something happening here. I don't have any other instances open. Yep. Just what Alyssa said earlier. I've been running into issues with like the sockets and things, or not sockets, the
ports.
This .NET host isn't getting cleaned up for some reason. Go away, .NET host.
I think the problem is that you try to do too much like rolling of your own. Like you're like, my name's Custom Ed, and I'm gonna do everything custom. I think that's the problem.
I try to be a developer too much, is what you're telling me.
Yes.
Stop doing what you get paid for.
When was just out of curiosity, when was the last time you updated VS? Like, what version are you on?
It looks like I might have a pending update. So I'm on, I think I'm on .3.
Okay.
So I do need to update it, but it was doing this, this update. I don't know when that came out. 2 days ago.
Always the host? Is it always
So I'm only... No. This is a new one. I've never seen this before. This is something that
you should get on a different call.
Client DLL could not be found. Oh, let's try this. It wasn't in the solution view.
Got it.
So that's probably part of the problem. Let's rebuild.
Ed, you find more weird bugs than anybody I know.
I'm a magnet for bizarre stuff happening. There we go. Got it.
The bug magnet.
As Alyssa drinks her coffee, I'll throw a little coffee ad out to my friends here. I was geeking out to my coffee before everybody joined. This is like the bomb. Alyssa, are you using like a coffee machine? Or are you doing like pods or what?
I just have an espresso, so I just like drink iced espresso in the morning. But
womp womp. I'm the only like coffee geek in the crowd, I think.
I own like one of those little baby coffee pots that you can like, you know. I have the capability.
I'm like pour over.
Snob, so.
Did you say you're a beer snob, Brady? Yeah. Like, do you like IPA? Is that what you're trying to tell me?
This stuff here.
I don't feel comfortable answering that question. You have that look on your face, like if I say yes, you're gonna be like, IPA is not beer.
No, I had to ask my friends on a podcast recently, like what IPA was, and I think they told me like anybody who really cares about beer likes IPA. So I just wanted to clarify that statement because you just said you like beer. So
I really like IPA, but I know other really great beer people, like one of the people that invented SignalR. Who like ribs me whenever I order an IPA, and he's like, IPA is not beer.
Okay, so that statement is not true all the time.
Right. I like IPAs, and I do like gluten-free IPAs. And I hate to admit it, but there's actually a couple of really good low-carb IPAs. But
oh, really?
Yeah. I apologize, but I need.
Oh yeah, you've got to go. Brady, this was awesome.
Thank you so much for joining us, Brady.
You were incredible,
really appreciate it.
And you clarified so many things for me, and chat loved you. So thank you so much, Brady.
No worries. You got to get the .NET cards on there. It goes with the purple. Feel free to share the link with the audience. I gave Alyssa the link so y'all can share it.
I will share it
if you have any ideas on it, let me know. Thank our lovely design team for that. So
hey. yeah, we'll have to get those on there. That'd be fun.
Cool. It'll be all purple. Be great. Thanks a lot for having me. This is a lot of fun.
Thank you so much. Bye-bye.
See ya.
So we have a problem.
Ed, I think that is the understatement of Friday.
Oh, wait. I think I figured out what it was. This was not running. This was not running. This is now running. So if I say I have joined, there I am. Now I can start the game. But all starting the game does is make the button disappear.
Right.
So
what happened to our can start game? Did that not work?
No, it works.
But no, it didn't.
It works to the point where I can start the game, but nothing happens when I start the game. The only functionality we have when we start the game is to make the button disappear.
Right. Okay.
So if making the button disappear is how you win the game, we have already won.
Apparently, TJ's kids. Or no, Sam's? TJ's.
Who's probably TJ. Sam's got one. Little one.
That were fighting to be the first VIP? Or was that your children?
Yeah, it was mine.
That was yours.
They have to be in Jackbox games. The start is only shown to the very first person that joins the game, and they will fight tooth and nail to like enter that code in and be the first one in to start the game.
I think really at this point, all we have to do is say like so and so started the game, and then your kids would love this game, right? Because they would know who hit the button first. Done.
So if we join, we can start. If we start, we need things to happen.
Carts. Give us carts. Ed,
Oh,
what?
you know what? Let's double check one more thing. Shoot. Let's go open this. Let's restart this game and this one. And we need multiple peeps here. So if Ed joins the game and Alyssa joins the game and Ed starts the game, then oh, come on.
What's that? What's what?
Oh,
what?
there. I clicked. Okay.
It's weird that it didn't go away for the other client.
Yeah, it only went away for me and not you.
That's
and
weird.
It weirdly, like, kind of stalled on that too.
Are you sending that back? That out? That the game has started? To everybody?
Let's double check. So we need the hub. We need to look back in our hub. Hubs, game hub. And when we start